Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and I added another feature to the MercedUI library. Um, so essentially what this is, it's like a global state. So the idea is like being able to have sort of a store that when it's updated will update several components, okay? Because it will go back and then update the stores of those components. So this is a function. So basically here I have a example sketched out. So we have this function called globalStore that creates this global store. So what it does, it returns this object that has three functions, which then is able to manipulate this store object that's in a closure somewhere. Okay, where it is doesn't really matter, it's there. Okay, so you see here, I'm going to save the resulting object in a function called myStore, and I'm going to run the function globalStore hello cheese. So this basically starts out with the word cheese, okay, just because why not. Here I create a component. Okay, I'm going to create a component, and then I'm going to use props. So I'm going to use this capture props thing, so that way I can use props just to show you what I did. So I made this component 3 times, and I'm going to have 3 different names just because, one, I just want to show you an example of using props, and 2, just so you can see that these are 3 individual instances of the component. So essentially the way this builder function works is that it takes the props and then returns this template string. So first it's going to return the hello property from the store, because we're going to pass in a store. Okay. And again, the initial store is this, just an empty string, and then the props, which is the user props, which we see here. Cool. So there we create the component, and as you saw in the index.html, we made 3 instances of that hello world component. Okay. And then we have a button that runs a function. We'll explore that function in a second. Let me just go to here. So if I refresh, you see here, there is the 3 components. So there is the cheese that we got from the store, and Bob. And actually, let me explain that. Let me actually just do one thing. Let me comment out. Well, actually, that's right here. So then what happens is the way this global store works is that it keeps track of which components you want to work with it. So you have to register it. So one of the functions that it has is this register function. So here what I'm doing is I'm going to select all the hello world components. So I'm going to select every instance of hello world and iterate over each one and register them with my store. So that way all 3 of them are registered with my store. Now once you register a component, it immediately passes it, updates the store of that component to fit. So that's why these all say cheese, because they got immediately registered with my store, the my store variable, our global store, which then updated their store to include the global store version, which has the cheese hello property. Okay. So all 3 objects, or all 3 instances of that, have this as their store. Cool. So now they're all linked together. So basically my store, my global store here, has all 3. Okay, and then here I have that function say hello, which then sets the store to a new object, except now the hello property is hello there instead. So you're returning a new object, and that new object replaces the old store. Okay, very nice. And again, you can create as many of these global stores as you want. So they can be as complicated. Now where this would be really useful to imagine a situation where you have a lot of different UI, a lot of different components that are based on the user. Okay, so instead of having to pass the user over and over again, you could just create a user store that holds that user object with all the user's data, and then just register every component with that user store. So then what happens is that every time that user store updates, like the user updates any information about the user, it will just automatically update all those components, every component registered with that user store. Okay, and basically you don't have to think about it. Okay, because watch what happens. When I click this button, it's going to update that store, and all 3 components are going to update. Now in this case, they're all the same component, but they imagine for a user, you can imagine there's different components, one showing like their profile, another component showing like a feed, that, you know, all of it grabs from that user object, which could be your user store. Okay, so if I refresh, let me hit say hello, And see, it changes, it updates the store, which then updated all 3 components that I registered with the store. Cool. So now you have sort of this global state variable that automatically re-renders everything very easily. Okay. Now a couple functions I didn't go into here is I could do this. Another function it has, if you wanted just to grab the store object, then it would just be my store.get. Okay, so a getter function. Okay, because again, it's that this actual store variable is hidden somewhere in the closure, so you can't directly access it. So if I wanted to use that data, I would have to use my store.get, and then I can chain off of it and grab the hello property if I wanted to. You also have my store.clear register, and this would then unregister all the components that are registered with it. Okay, so let's say I wanted to rerun this iteration because maybe other components have been added. What I would do is run the clear register first before I do this again. That way I'm not re-adding components I've already re-added, or I already added, or something like that. Okay, so it's there in case you need it. So there's 4 functions. So just to recap, there's set, get, register, and clear register. How do you get this object? You use this function, it returns the object, and then you can play around with it from there. Okay, and you just register your components with it, and you don't even have to worry about updating those components anymore. Those components will automatically update whenever you use that set function. Okay, cool. So that's all. That's the new feature. I think it's cool. I can definitely see some applications for it. As you'll see here, I'm actually playing around with tagging template literals. I'm trying to see if there's any particularly useful, because I was taking a look at, people mentioned that this library was kind of similar to lit HTML, so I went to go look at the lit HTML library, which is cool. It is similar in concept because they're both built on top of the web component API, so they're both kind of an abstraction over the web component API. Now I'm sure the lit HTML will be more used in MercedUI because it is created by Google, but I don't know. I guess I still don't appreciate some of the choices they've made fully. I'm a big fan of some of the way I set certain things up. I mean, the way it works there pretty much is that you pass in, they created a class that extends the HTML element class, their lit element class, and then you create components using that, and you pass in a template literal, and they have like this special like tag HTML to tag your literals, and it helps build your component and all this stuff. I kind of like this syntax better. I think this is a little bit more succinct, and it doesn't require people to be building classes. It's just automatically assembles it for you. It's like ba-da, which is pretty cool. Okay, with that, I think we are good. Okay, so I will see you guys later. Have a great day, and yeah, check out MercedUI. Try it out. Play around with it. I've made all these videos showing you how all the different features work. They can work together well, and they can work separately well. Some of these features, like the global, like all these features, are built to work be just as useful separately as they are together. So you might just want the capture props or the get query hash function to help you access those things much easier. But you have access to all these tools in this library, so go check it out.